Previously on Bleach. Okay, so after about 20 chapters of us running around like a chicken with its head cut off, now we can finally get ready for the battle. Let's see, we have Yhwach, we have Nell, we have Grimjow, we have all the Visors, we have all the captains. Alright, let's do this. Everybody, charge for the castle and Yhwach's 1,000-year reign over all of them!
Oh, hold on, guys. We're going into flashbacks.
What?
We're going into flashbacks, so, you know, you guys can just chill out. Hey, you want to play some Uno? I got a wicked Uno deck over here. It's got 1,056 cards. We could be playing this shit for at least 6 weeks.
Okay, what about alcohol? Oh, dude, we got the booze. It's right here. We're all good. Okay, shit then. Let's party.
Yep, that's how we do it.
Hey everybody, Tekking here, here to review Bleach chapter 632, titled Friend 2. I'm a friend to you. Are you a friend to me? Okay, that's good. I'll be there for you, buddy. Whenever you have trouble, I will totally not be there because I most likely do not live close to where you are, but I'll be there in spirit, and I think that's all that matters. Not really. The chapter continues on with the backstory of Basby and Jugo Hashwalth, which would eventually become Sternritters. It continues on at the 5-year gap. You know, remember when Yhwach burned down Baz's, I guess, his family's castle and the forest where Jugo lived with his uncle. So they decide, you know, we're gonna, you know, gain the trust of Yhwach. We're gonna join his ranks, and then we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna kill the guy. And then they began training for 5 years tirelessly to attain this this level where they could get into Yhwach's army. We pretty much pick up after the 5 years where we see an inner monologue with Basby and how the training's been going. He states that he's been, you know, gaining a lot of power just as normally expected because he's such a prodigy. You know, he was able to make his holy bow and arrows when he was really young, so now we see a more advanced form of his crossbow here, and I probably got a lot stronger in other respects too. Maybe he gained, you know, Blued Vein or Hirankaku or the certain Quincy techniques that you could achieve. You know, obviously his heat powers haven't come into play yet, or even like the Volt Standing, that stuff he didn't get probably until he was bestowed on the power of the Sternritter. I have to bring up one thing, and this is something I've been trying not to bring up because it is the most nitpicky of nitpicky things that even I wasn't going to touch it, but I think it's time I bring it up. Okay, so what the fuck is up with Basby's, you know, spirit weapon being a fucking crossbow? Like, let's analyze this for a second here. I mean, he started using it, like, what, in chapter 585, 586, around there when his fight against Renji, but it just perplexes me. It's like, okay, you take reishi from the surrounding area, you form it into a weapon. Okay, well, why do you make a crossbow? Like, the whole point, like, is there reishi, like, thread? Is there reishi, like, gears and mechanisms inside of it? Like, so you pull the trigger and it shoots the arrow? Why would you need a trigger? It's reishi. You can shoot it yourself. I mean, like a better question is with the freaking minigun that BG9 has and the pistols that Robert Akutron uses. Like, if I could just spawn a reishi pistol, like, boom, okay, there we go, a reishi pistol. Okay, so what? Is there, like, a reishi magazine in there? A reishi firing pin? Like, does it get jammed? Like, why would you bother? You know, screw it. Doesn't matter. That's the nitpicking segment for the video. I just wanted to bring that up, that it makes no sense why you would have to make a complicated weapon with moving parts when it's made out of pure energy. But okay, anyway, continuing onward. Basby brings up the fact that Jugo, however, has not gained any power or any advancements in the way of Quincy techniques in the past 5 years. Remember when he first met Jugo, he couldn't even form an arrow or bow, or he couldn't, you know, gather reishi at all. He was hunting with like a normal bow and arrow he had to make himself, and that hasn't changed. You know, he still has to fight with a normal sword, and if he wants to fight with a bow and arrow, he has to make it his own and fight. However, he brings up the fact, I mean, he's still very loyal. You have to give Basby that. He's very loyal. He even brings up, like, I don't even know if training with Jugo is going to be, you know, helping me. It might actually turn out to be a detriment because, you know, he can't use all these Quincy techniques, so he's kind of holding me back. He probably can't, you know, train properly with him, you know, like a sparring partner, because Jugo can't hold build up to the different techniques that Bazby can create. However, he does bring up that despite the fact that he can't use Quincy techniques, he's been training tirelessly with the sword and bow, so he might be even more skilled in certain respects than Bazby is, just being a natural prodigy. Kind of like Naruto and Sasuke. Or I guess Indra or Ashura, or I guess Luffy and Ace. Damn, this trope is repeated a lot. Yeah. Anyway, something else Bazby brings up is that Jugo's kind is very rare, having a Quincy being born that can't use any Quincy techniques or can't gather reishi. He states that he's heard of this happening every couple of decades, but the last time that it's been confirmed is about 100 years ago, and at this point it's more myth than history that, you know, a Quincy can be born without the ability to gather reishi together. So I gotta, maybe this has something to do with the pure and mixed blood Quincy. You know, I don't know. They haven't really talked about that much. Maybe Bazby's a pureblood and Jugo is mixed, so that's why he can't access them. It just hammers it in more, though, that everybody born in this area, in this country, has to be a Quincy, because you'd think if somebody was born, it's so rare for a Quincy to be born that doesn't have Quincy techniques, wouldn't you just be a normal human? So if it's so rare that it only happens, you know, every couple decades, or in this case, every couple hundred years, then there's no normal humans then by that regard. That means everybody in this area has to be a Quincy, essentially, or the vast majority have to be. Yeah, Bazby stays loyal to Jugo. He says, I'm not going to desert him. I'm not going to give up on him. We kind of made a blood oath here that we're going to take on, you know, Yhwach and take him down for the shit he did to our families and our homes. So, you know, he's not going to desert him. And then that fateful day came upon us. So we flash a little bit forward where we have Yhwach's, you know, soldiers invading a particular town, and they're carrying Yhwach's banner. Now, the banner is interesting because it has something that looks similar to the Stern Ritter symbol that we all know and love, the 5-pointed star, but this one only has 3 points on it, so this is indicating maybe this was his seal, you know, 1,000 years ago, because this is the seal of the Stern Ritters, and the Stern Ritters don't exist yet, so it would make sense why they look similar, because they were both created by the same guy, Yhwach, but it would make sense why he wouldn't have this symbol, you know, before the Stern Ritters were forged. This is just maybe the symbol of his just generic army of Quincy's. So they all barge into this random village out in the middle of nowhere, really, where Bazby and Jugo just happen to be training nearby in the forest, and we get two characters that we actually have seen before. These two individuals, I know the big guy for certain. The guy on the horse, I mean the guy with the black hair on the horse, it might be a little bit because we didn't get to see his face too clearly, but once again, going back to whenever Yamamoto activated his Ryujin Jaka Bankai, his Zanko no Tachi South ability, when he raised up all the skeletons, we got to look at Zydrits, which we saw last chapter in skeletal form, and we also got to look at two other Quincy's that Yamamoto apparently killed in the past, and those were Algora and Hubert. And Algora we can see very clearly, he's the bigger guy with the full lips and he has the big scar on his forehead. That guy we see very clearly. Hubert, we only get like a partial glance at his face in human form whenever Royd, who's disguised as Yhwach, looks at him. And of course Royd has the same memories of Yhwach in this form. But I'm going to say it's Hubert because there's like, no, clearly that's what Kubo's going for, you know, showing the guys that we were already introduced to. So I'm assuming that you get this guy is Hubert. That's the one who's making the announcement that Yhwach is now looking for his Stern Ritters, and this guy, I guess these a decent-sized group, like at least, you know, 4 or 5 Quincy are sent to this village in order to, you know, announce that Yhwach is looking for the Stern Ritters here, and they're basically just trying to recruit people, and they're just like, you know, we're establishing this new vanguard, and they shall be called the Stern Ritter, and they lay down the flag with the 5-pointed star of the Stern Ritter that we all know in the current timeline. Kind of interesting, though. I mean, that one's a 5-pointed star, the other one's a 3-pointed star. I don't really get it. Wait a second. 3-pointed star. That's not a 3 points. It makes a Y, which means Yhwach. Oh, I get it. Okay. Oh, wow. I think I just spoiled myself a bunch of comments. Oh, man. That would have been nuts if I didn't notice that. People, hey, you know it's a Y. It stands for Yhwach. Okay. I gotcha. You motherfuckers. Okay, there you go. I'm not even kidding. I just realized that now. I didn't even pay a second mind to it when I was taking the snapshots this morning. Yes, I feel so proud of myself right now. Okay, so it's military recruiting time. Hubert lays out the skinny really damn bluntly. He just says, hey, look, these group of knights called the Stern Ritter, we're going to be gathering them together and we're going to invade the Soul Society. We're going to take them down once and for all. His Majesty thinks that eventually they're going to become a detriment to our own existence. Yeah, he's not wrong. Hey, wait a second, though. Isn't the Soul Society and the living world kind of like living on a scale, and if we take one down, the other one will surely collapse into the void of nothing? Okay then, if any more of you peasant smartasses want to make your points clear to me, now would be the time when I have my bow out. Okay, so Jugo is not really aiming to join the Stern Raiders. He doesn't really consider it a possibility. He's just more excited for the fact, I guess, they've been training all around the country for the past 5 years, and now they're looking for Yhwach's army, and they just happen to run into it. So he looks over at Bazby, and he's like, oh man, this is a good stroke of luck, isn't it? Maybe we can figure something out what to do with this. And Bazby's just striking the grin, and he's just like, oh, okay, I know what we're doing, you know, because Hubert's up there, and he's just like, those of you that have a strong desire to fight, for the sake of the Quincy, join this army! And so Bazby's like, ha, this is the point we've been waiting for. And maybe Jugo is like, hey, whoa, calm down, dude. We've been training a lot, but we're not at the level yet to really do this. I mean, they're still probably only about, like, what, 15, 16 years old, if that. Oh, by the way, another thing I want to bring up, you know, people have asked, you know, maybe this isn't the living world. You know, I kept comparing it to, like, medieval Europe last video. People have been saying maybe this is the shadow dimension of the Quincy's. And I don't really want to entertain that because just because of my current theory is that if this is 1,000 years ago, obviously Bazby and Hashwolf aren't aging at all. So my theory is that once you go into the shadow dimension, you stop aging. So they're clearly aging here in the living world, and, you know, they go and they made the Soul Society, you know, and then after the Soul Society, you know, decks the Quincy's and Yhwach gets sealed through whatever means, Bazby and Hashwolf and the other surviving Stern Raiders have to retreat to the inside of the shadow dimension, and while they're in there, they don't age. And that's where they stay for 1,000 years until Yhwach resurrects. Maybe they're like in an eternal sleep or something like that, but I'm like very, very certain this is still the living world. It's just so long ago, it just doesn't resemble the living world of anything that we've seen up till now in the series. Anyway, though, despite the fact that they have no idea what they're getting into, and they really don't have a battle plan whatsoever, Bazby just says to Jugo, hey, let's join! So he just, like, grabs Jugo, and they walk right up in front of Hubert and Al Gore, and they're just basically like, hey, I'm Baz, and I'm Jugo, you know, how about we join the Stern Raiders? And so Hubert just looks down at them and just sees these two children that have really they're not exhibiting any special abilities or anything like that. So they're just like, move along, move along. These are not the Quincy's you're looking for. But of course, Bazby ain't having none of that shit, so he begins shouting over at Hubert, like, hey, what the hell? You guys say you want elite Quincy's that want to fight for the cause? Well, we're elite Quincy's. We got a cause to fight for, maybe, kind of, so let's do this. And Hubert just kind of turns around and just says, hey, look, we're not really recruiting today. Sorry, the message might have gotten a little confused. There will be an exam held later on, probably a death battle, 1 or 2, where you'll have to spill the blood of your own brethren. And so, you know, a notice will be circulated whenever that's happening, so you can come and you can hone your skills until then. Yeah, so it's a little bit, you know, perplexing why Yhwach would send, like, a handful of his soldiers to different random-ass villages and just declare, like, who wants to join the Stern Raiders? And, you know, some people will be like, oh, okay, me, I guess. And they'll be like, no, not today, not today. You'll have to go to the testing center on the 27th between the hours of 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. and, you know, see if you pass. I mean, I don't know. You think they would just send, like, I don't know, one guy to that to go to each village and nail a piece of paper to the church door and just be like, okay, here's the notification from Lord Yhwach. This is what you need to do to become a Stern Raider. Okay, bye. Anyway, though, along with this, Hubert also said that there's very little chance that Bazby and Jugo are going to be able to get into the Stern Raider anyway because of their, I guess they're still children in their eyes. Bazby, once again, ain't having none of this, takes out his crossbow and shoots an arrow directly in the path of Hubert's horse. So he stops and he looks over and he's like, oh, you want me to hone my skills? Okay, then. You and me, military officer, son. After I win, you'll forfeit your title and position to me. Oh my god, that's so lucky. You do know I'm the guy that's in charge of cleaning out Yhwach's latrines, right? That guy, he can, oh god, okay, yeah, sure, you can have my title if you want, man, totally. No, Hubert doesn't really get intimidated this at all. He just kind of, you know, stops his horse, you know, pulls out his sword, strikes the creepy grin, and he's just like, what an insolent little monkey. You shall know your place in this world. And Bazby turns to him. Really good comeback on Bazby's part here. He's just like, a military official was slaughtered by a monkey. Don't you think your fellow comrades will pass that exact message on to Yhwach for me? Military officer slaughtered by a monkey. Wait, actually, Actually, that has me curious. Hold on a second. Slaughtered by a monkey. May possibly regret this, but Shit! My question is, who thought it would be a good idea to give a fucking monkey an AK-47? I mean, really, that just... Hello? Well, at least I know now. Okay, so anyway, Bazby and Hubert begin charging at each other, getting ready for an epic battle I'm sure is gonna show all the fruits of their labor of the past 5 years of Okay, so, immediately after charging towards Hubert, Bazby gets, decked on the ground, and before I turned the page, I figured, that was, just from Hubert's part, and I thought that would be pretty, interesting concept that Kubo's throwing out, that, even after the past 5 years of training, and even though he's a prodigy, just one soldier in Yhwach's army would be enough to, take down Bazby. But, no, it turns out it wasn't Hubert that did it. It was, in fact, Yhwach who arrives on the scene, riding his epic war horse stallion. Woo! Yeah, I knew that thing was going to make a comeback. Knew that thing. In fact, I don't even think it was Yhwach, the one that subdued Bazby with his Ryatsu, I think it was the horse. Oh god, I've been completely subjugated by his massive amounts of Ryatsu. I can't move. So, this is he who calls himself the original Quincy. This is Yhwach. No, you foolish child, my master cannot waste his Ryatsu on you. It is I, the horse. Woo! Oh, well, forgive me, Horse-sama, your power is truly great. So do you think I could stand up now? Nay! Not until you have an epic mane so glorious as myself can you allow your power to surpass the horse. I was thinking about growing a mohawk. I'll believe it when I see it, you foolish boy. Alright, so yeah, Yhwach arrives, and he uses his Ryatsu basically to suppress all the villagers, to get them, to collapse and I guess, kneel at the greatness of Yhwach. So, yeah, this further just explains, that, everybody in this area has to have some spiritual energy, right? Because, if I remember correctly, when we were doing with the whole Aizen thing, if your Ryatsu, if you're just like a normal human that has no spiritual power whatsoever, you can't detect when a spiritual being is around you. So even when you have like a supremely powerful creature like Aizen, who's like god-level Ryatsu walking around, if you're a normal human, you still won't even be able to detect his presence. I mean, when you get close to him, your body collapses, but it's not like your body collapses before you see him. You have to get right up to him in order for it to have an effect. So I guess, all these villagers, even these random peasants, all have spiritual energy to some aspect. So they're all Quincy's. So Bazby is, I guess everyone else is just knocked out, like freaking, Conqueror's hockey or whatever, but Bazby is still maintaining consciousness, and he's, trying to stand back up, but it's very difficult for him. Yhwach's not even paying him a second glance. Meanwhile, Hubert, he kneels at his majesty, and he's like, I apologize, Yhwach, for getting baited into a duel with this, brat. And Yhwach's like, no big deal, I just came to find what I was looking for. The individual who shall become the right-hand man to me, Yhwach. So Bazby realizes, like, oh, hey, man, this is my chance. If I can, everyone else here is knocked out. If I can prove to Yhwach that I am still conscious and I can stand up before the weight of his Ryatsu, I'll be a second in command, and I'll have so many opportunities to kill him. It'll be crazy. So Bazby starts trying, like, he just starts, trying to stand up. He's, like, exerting his full force here. Oh, God. Come on, Bazby. He burned down your castle. He killed your family. Everything that you've ever worked for. Past 5 years of training. Stand up and face him. God, I could really use a motivational speaker right about now.
So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
Oh wow, that is the single greatest speech that any human being has ever given. Alright, come on, you can do this! I am doing it! I'm standing up! Yhwach, look at me with your glorious... Oh, hey, Blondie, you want to join the Stern Ritter? Ah, son of a f***ing Jugo! Yeah, so admits pretty much a large chunk of the villagers that either got rendered, to their knees or, got knocked out by, Yhwach's Ryatsu, and then Bazby, who's, he standed up, but it was, like, barely, like, he had to exert a lot of effort. We have Jugo standing there, completely unharmed by his Ryatsu whatsoever. He's not even kneeling in the slightest, and I think that's, what Yhwach's plan was. I'm going to journey to each one of these villages and, walk into the village, exert my Ryatsu, and clearly anyone that can stand up would be the one that would be worthy of being my right hand. And I guess that goes into the idea that, you know, he doesn't have any inert, you know, Quincy powers, so that's how, you know, he's not affected because he doesn't have any powers to be suppressed. That might come into play later on because, you know, the whole thing with at night, you know, Yugo gets, you know, Yhwach's powers and it flips, so maybe that's something to deal with that. But yeah, Yhwach arrives and says, I already know your name, Jugo Hashwolf. Would you like to become the other half of me and make me complete, young man? I need an adult. I am an adult. Yeah, so this also goes back to the time, I think it was like 626 or something like that, when after Yhwach absorbed the Soul King and, you know, the other elite Stern Raiders show up and everyone's freaking out, Yhwach calls Hashwolf, you know, my first son, Jugram. So that explains that, you know, he wasn't like his actual father, like I figured, you know, this is somebody that they just met as, like, he became the first Stern Raider. So, yeah, that's the end of the chapter, and I could see this flashback still going on another probably 3 chapters minimum. It's probably going to be longer than that, because we still, I mean, I wanted to see, honestly, I was a little let down because I wanted to see how the other Stern Raiders, you know, how they recruited them, like, you know, Robert Ackertron and maybe like BG9 and Kane Do, how they came in. But you know, we had to kind of tackle this one first because obviously Jugo became the Grandmaster of the Stern Raiders. We had to know his story first, and this is probably where Basby is going to be recruited as well. So they became the first members of the Stern Raiders, and maybe in the next chapters we'll get more, maybe actually the next chapters probably might be more devoted to, you know, what exactly Hashwolf is, because when Yhwach met him, he's like, you are my other half, as if it's already been ordained, you know, that this boy has been in existence. So, I mean, we don't really know a lot about Hashwolf's past. You know, we know his parents are dead, we know that he was raised by his uncle, but that's it. You know, we don't really know about his origins or anything like that. So, yeah, probably gonna get a little bit of exposition in that next chapter, and then after that, maybe we'll get on to, like, Yhwach going, and maybe just, like, a passage of time, like, maybe just, like, yeah, like a couple panels, you know, recruiting Robert, or recruiting, you know, Kurhei and stuff like that, and that's what that's going to be about. But anyway, yeah, what do you think is going to happen, and where do you think this flashback's going to go? What questions about the Stern Raiders do you want to be answered? Because odds are we're probably not going to get all of them answered, but hey, you can hope, right? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later.